I've never seen anyone call the cops just because my wife stepped out of a truck, but Cheryl Bennett did. 911. Possible military impersonator, she yelled, pointing right at Alyssa like she'd caught a terrorist. 1 minute later, 2 squad cars rolled in, neighbors poured out like it was a block party. But then my wife calmly reached into her wallet. And when she pulled out that one small card, the entire street went dead silent. And Cheryl froze like a wax statue in the sun. I thought I had it all planned out. Clean house, fresh flowers. The welcome home, banner just right. Alyssa was coming back after 2 brutal years overseas. No more video calls, no more countdown clocks. Just, finally, us. Together. I must have checked the driveway 50 times that morning. Each minute crawled like a damn hour. Then I heard it, that engine. That low, gritty rumble that says military steel incoming. And there she was, my wife, Colonel Alyssa Grant, U.S. Army. Back in one piece, still standing tall. She stepped out like she owned the damn planet. Boots hit pavement, back straight, eyes scanning the street like she never left the field. Me, I was grinning like a fool. I didn't see her then, but 3 doors down behind pink curtains she was watching, clipboard in hand, waiting to ruin everything. She parked that military-grade beast like it belonged there. Engine off, boots down. Alyssa moved with the kind of calm that says I've seen worse than anything this street can throw at me. Even the wind held its breath. Neighbors peeked from behind blinds, some curious, some judgmental, but she didn't flinch, didn't even blink. She walked up the path, scanning every window, every shadow. 8 years in uniform trained her for that. Situational awareness. She once told me, "Your body comes home first. Your instincts take longer," and damn if she wasn't right. Her smile was warm when she saw the banner, but her posture, tight, alert. She felt something I didn't. I was just happy to have her home. She sensed we weren't alone. Across the street, behind those pink curtains, Cheryl Bennett lowered her binoculars and picked up her phone. That was the moment everything started. Her front door slammed so hard it echoed like a gunshot. Cheryl Bennett stormed out in a pink bathrobe, clipboard clutched like a weapon phone already recording. She looked like a general marching into war if that general also wore fuzzy slippers. She beelined toward us, eyes locked on Alyssa like she was an armed intruder. "Excuse me," she barked, raising a finger like she was issuing a citation. "That vehicle is in violation of HOA Section 3B, no commercial or military-grade trucks parked on residential property. 30-minute limit. You're past it." I started to speak, calm, polite, trying to diffuse. "Ma'am, this is my wife. She just got back from active duty." I don't care what she claims to be," Cheryl snapped. "Rules are rules." Alyssa didn't flinch, didn't speak, just stared, and somehow that silence, it was louder than any threat. Before I could get another word in, Cheryl whipped out her phone like it was a badge. Snap, snap, snap. She circled Alyssa's truck like she was filming a crime scene. Evidence she muttered loud enough for the whole block to hear. Possible fraud. Military impersonation in progress. I felt my stomach drop. Was she serious? She posted straight to the HOA group chat. "Urgent suspicious vehicle. Non-compliant residents. Possible stolen valor." Alyssa stood there calm as stone arms, crossed eyes tracking Cheryl's every move. That military stillness. It was unnerving, like she was waiting for the real threat to show itself. Meanwhile, Cheryl was feeding off the attention. Neighbors peeked out windows, some stepping onto their lawns. "This neighborhood has standards," Cheryl said loud and proud. "I won't let strangers destroy what I've built." She had no idea who she'd just picked a fight with. I wanted to shout, wanted to tell Cheryl to shut her damn mouth before she embarrassed herself further, but Alyssa, she didn't say a word. She just tilted her head, ever so slightly, like she was studying Cheryl, like a biologist watching an agitated squirrel. No anger, no fear, just that calm, calculating stare she used to break down battlefield intel. It rattled Cheryl way more than yelling ever could. "You think this is funny?" Cheryl snapped, voice rising an octave. "This isn't some base or war zone. This is my street, my neighborhood." Alyssa smiled barely, and said soft as hell, "Do you know what real authority looks like?" Boom. Even I froze. The crowd shifted. You could feel it cracks forming in Cheryl's control. She didn't know it yet, but Alyssa had just declared war, and she never loses wars. Cheryl's lips pressed into a thin, twitchy line. You could see the circuits overloading behind her eyes. Alyssa's calm had cracked her ego wide open. Then Cheryl spun on her heel like it was choreography, stormed back toward her porch muttering, "You want to play authority games?" She pulled out her phone again, but this time she wasn't taking pictures. She was dialing. I heard the tone, and then the voice 911. "I need to report a suspicious individual, military vehicle, possible stolen valor." I swear my heart dropped through the damn lawn. She wasn't bluffing. She was actually trying to get my wife arrested, on her first day home. Alyssa didn't move, just slipped her phone out and calmly took a photo of Cheryl mid-rant. "Evidence," she whispered. 2 syllables cold as steel, and that's when I knew Cheryl wasn't ready for the war she just started. I didn't think they'd actually show up. But 20 minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled onto our streetlights, spinning sirens off, but presents loud as hell. Neighbors came pouring out like we'd triggered a damn parade, phones in hand, lawn chairs out, popcorn energy, and Cheryl. She was standing front and center like she'd summoned justice herself, waving down the cops like air traffic control. "That's them," she barked, pointing at Alyssa like we were fugitives. "She claims to be military, but there's no record. Check your databases." Chief Raymond Blake stepped out first. Grizzled, tired eyes, but sharp, like a man who's seen more nonsense than he'll ever admit. Behind him was Officer Lewis, young, stiff by the book. They approached slow, professional, neutral, but even from the porch I could feel the weight in the air shift. This wasn't just a noise complaint. This was a showdown. Cheryl cranked up the drama like she was auditioning for daytime TV. "Officers, thank God you're here," she sighed, loud enough for half the county. "She's been threatening this community with her presence. Fake military ID, intimidation tactics. Just look at the truck." She gestured toward Alyssa's parked vehicle like it was carrying weapons of mass destruction. "This poor man," she pointed at me, "can't even speak up, probably scared of her. It's textbook coercion." I wanted to laugh and scream at the same time. The crowd was eating it up, neighbors whispering, glancing at Alyssa like they didn't know what to believe. The fear, the doubt Cheryl was fueling it fast. But Alyssa, still silent, still unreadable, just watching Cheryl like a hawk watching prey wear itself out. And me, I was praying anyone would just ask for proof, because that's when everything would flip. Chief Blake finally spoke. Calm, professional. "Ma'am, we'll need to see some identification. Both of you." Cheryl folded her arms like she'd already won. Her smirk said, "Let's see them squirm now." I fumbled for my wallet, hands shaking like I'd done something wrong. But Alyssa, she moved slow, deliberate, like she had all the time in the world. She reached back, pulled out her wallet, and opened it with the kind of quiet confidence you feel. One card, held between 2 fingers, raised just enough to catch the morning sun. The silver eagle gleamed. Colonel Alyssa Grant, United States Army. For a full 5 seconds, nobody said a word. Not the cops, not the neighbors, not even the birds. Then I looked at Cheryl. Her eyes locked on that ID like it had just ended her career, and in a way, it had. It was like watching a computer crash in real time. Cheryl's face didn't move for a full 5 seconds. Smile, frozen. Eyes locked on that card like it had teeth. Then, crack. Her jaw twitched. The smirk melted. Her voice, gone. Chief Blake's posture snapped to military form. He saluted. saluted. "Colonel Grant." "Ma'am," he said with respect I'd never seen him use before. "My sincerest apologies." Even Officer Lewis stood straighter, eyes wide. You could see the gears turning in his rookie brain. "Oh, damn, we messed up." Meanwhile, Cheryl stood there like someone had yanked the rug out from under her kingdom. Neighbors whispered. Phones dropped. Someone actually gasped. I turned to look at Alyssa. She didn't gloat, didn't blink, just nodded once. And Cheryl. She took a half step back, like she knew her reign was officially over. Cheryl tried to recover, but her voice cracked before her sentence did. I'm just saying. Even the military can fake IDs these days. Weak. Even she knew it. Chief Blake didn't flinch. "This is a federal ID, ma'am," he said, voice cool. "I suggest you tread lightly." The neighbors weren't even pretending anymore. Whispers turned into stares. Phones were back up, but this time they were recording her. Cheryl glanced around, realizing the shift. She was no longer the ringmaster. She was the act. "I was just doing my duty to the neighborhood," she muttered, backing away, but it was too late. The woman who ruled with HOA citations and veiled threats had just been outranked, publicly. And Alyssa, she still hadn't said a word since showing her ID. She didn't need to. Her silence had already dismantled a tyrant. When the cops pulled away and the neighbors drifted back inside, I should have felt relieved. We won right, but my hands were still shaking. Chest tight. I couldn't stop scanning the street like something else was coming. Alyssa, though she was calm, collected, like it was just another day at the office. She slipped off her boots, set them by the door, and gave me a smile that said, "I'm home." But I couldn't shake it, that feeling. Like we just stepped into something bigger, something that wasn't over. "Do you think she's done?" I asked. Alyssa paused mid-unpack. "No," she said, flat as fact. "She's the kind that doesn't lose well." She wasn't talking about Cheryl being angry. She was talking about strategy. And just like that, I realized my wife hadn't just won a battle. She'd started tracking the war. The next morning it started. I opened our front door to grab the paper and found a bright yellow slip taped to the glass. HOA violation, unauthorized signage. Apparently, our Welcome Home banner broke Regulation 7C. Seriously, that same banner had been up for 2 days. No one said a word until now. That was just the appetizer. By the end of the week, we'd racked up 5 more trash bins placed too early. Porch light too bright. Vehicle too close to the curb. Overgrown hedge by 1 inch. Noise violation from Alyssa's morning run. Each fine 85. Each one delivered with surgical timing. Printed, stamped, laminated. She wasn't just annoyed, she was organized. Alyssa didn't say much. Just started a folder, labeled it Cheryl's War Crimes. Me, I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control. And Cheryl wanted it back paper cut by paper cut. Cheryl didn't just stop at fines, she leveled up. She started walking her yappy little dog directly across our lawn every morning and forgot to clean up after it. Every single time. She parked her car just close enough to block our driveway, but not enough to get towed. So I had to knock on her door every day like a damn delivery guy just to get to work. At exactly 11 p.m., she'd blast oldies through her outdoor speakers. Always shut it off at 10:59 p.m., just under the noise ordinance. This wasn't a neighbor dispute anymore. This was psychological warfare HOA style. Death by 1,000 passive-aggressive cuts. Alyssa started calling it tactical harassment. Me, I just called it what it felt like, a siege. And the worst part, she still hadn't even begun to really fight. When the clipboard tricks didn't break us, Cheryl went digital. It started on the neighborhood app. A post titled "Concerned About New Residents." She didn't name us, of course. She didn't have to. Photos of Alyssa's truck, blurred shots of us walking laughing cropped to look off. Captions like "possible PTSD behavior" and "should we be worried about safety?" Then came the DMs. Subtle poison dropped in inboxes. I'm not saying anything's wrong, but military types snap sometimes. We were being turned into a threat, and the worst part? It was working. Neighbors stopped waving, stopped looking us in the eye. Some pulled their kids inside when we passed. It didn't matter that Cheryl's words were baseless. She wasn't trying to prove a point. She was trying to isolate us. And slowly, post by post, she was winning. I wasn't sleeping. Every creak of the floorboards made me flinch. Every car that passed our house felt like a threat. I kept double-checking the locks, then triple-checking them. It didn't matter that we'd done nothing wrong. Somehow I still felt guilty, like we were the problem. I stopped waving to neighbors they weren't waving back anyway. The mailbox became a landmine. Every time I opened it, I half expected a new violation. Or worse. One night, I found myself sitting in the dark living room staring at the pile of fines on the kitchen counter. Maybe we should just pay them, I muttered. Lay low, show, we're not here to make trouble. Alyssa didn't answer right away. She just looked at me like I'd said something foreign, like I was surrendering. And maybe I was, because for the first time since this started, I felt broken. Alyssa didn't raise her voice. She didn't throw a speech at me. She just stood up, grabbed her laptop, and said, "Enough." I followed her to the dining table where she opened a fresh folder on her desktop. She named it Operation Neighborhood Peace. I blinked. What is this? Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Photos of Cheryl's car parked illegally. Screenshots of her public posts laced with paranoia. Time-stamped recordings of the late-night music blaring 1 minute before curfew. She wants a war, Alyssa said calmly. Fine. Let's fight it. By her rules. But smarter. Her eyes had that same intensity I'd seen when she came back from her last tour. Not anger. Focus. She's counting on fear, she whispered. But I know fear. I faced it. Then she looked at me dead serious. And Cheryl Palmer has no idea who she just picked a fight with. Alyssa didn't waste time. By sunrise, she had surveillance logs, time-stamped violations, and a spreadsheet that looked more lethal than a missile blueprint. Rule number 1, she said, not looking up from her screen. Know your enemy better than they know themselves. She tracked Cheryl's patrol routes, her HOA filing times, even when her dog took its daily dump on our lawn. Yes, there were photos. Date, time, coordinates. I watched her set up cameras. Not hidden, obvious, blinking red. A silent message. We're watching too. She filed complaints. Legit ones. Cheryl blocking hydrants, illegal signage noise after hours. Every step was legal. Clean. Ironclad. This isn't revenge, Alyssa told me. This is documentation. Meanwhile, Cheryl kept escalating more notes, more photos, more paranoia. She thought she still held the leash. She didn't see the leash tightening around her. And we weren't done yet. Day 4. Cheryl got her first official warning from the city, obstruction of public utilities. Caught red-handed parking in front of a hydrant. Alyssa's photo, time-stamped GPS tagged, sealed the deal. And that was just the appetizer. Next day, boom, another notice. Unlawful noise during restricted hours. We had footage. Audio. Neighbors nodding in agreement. Cheryl, she cracked. Started pacing in her slippers at 2 a.m., whispering into her phone like some wannabe spy. She knew something had shifted. The hunted was now the watched. You feel that Alyssa asked me sipping coffee on the porch. That's called tactical pressure. Keep it steady, keep it legal, and eventually, they fold. Cheryl filed a complaint the next day against a mailbox. Yeah, ours. Claimed it was too military-looking. It was beige, she was slipping. Fast. And Alyssa, she was just getting started. By week's end, Cheryl was a walking red flag. She'd nailed blackout curtains to every window, set up motion lights that blinked like a UFO landing pad, and installed 3 fake security cameras facing our house. Every time Alyssa jogged past Cheryl's curtains twitched like they were alive. Then came the neighborhood group chat meltdown. Cheryl posted a 700-word rant titled, "Military Plants Among Us." No one replied, not even the guy who always shared memes at 3 a.m. Alyssa saw it, smirked, and simply typed, "Interesting theory." That tiny emoji, it set Cheryl off like a lit fuse. Next day, she stood in the middle of the street yelling, "She's not real military, it's all a front." Neighbors closed their doors. Dogs stopped barking. Even the wind held its breath. But Alyssa, she was calm as ever. "This is where she implodes," she whispered, and she was right. The next morning, a letter slid under our door, HOA letterhead red stamp on top, emergency meeting. Mandatory attendance. Cheryl had called a full neighborhood session. Location, the clubhouse. Agenda, addressing threats to community standards. It was clear. She was trying to stage a coup, one last desperate grab for control. "She's about to go full soap opera," Alyssa muttered, pressing her uniform shirt flat. At 7 p.m. sharp, the place was packed. Half curious, half annoyed. Cheryl stood at the front, dressed like a political candidate with a stack of papers and an exhausted smile. "Thank you all for coming," she said sweetly. "Tonight we must address a pattern of dangerous behavior, manipulation, and stolen valor." And then she turned, pointed right at Alyssa, and said, "This woman is not who she says she is. No more whispers, no more veils." It was war. On the record, silence. Thick, heavy, loaded silence. Every eye in the room turned to Alyssa. Even the ceiling fan seemed to slow down, waiting. I felt my stomach knot. But Alyssa, she stood up smooth, steady. Didn't flinch, didn't blink. "Is that your final statement, Ms. Palmer?" she asked, voice calm, like a court clerk. Cheryl scoffed. "I've seen the vehicle. I've seen the fake salute. You're a fraud." Alyssa nodded once, then reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out a folder. One by one, she laid the contents on the HOA table, slow, deliberate. Her military ID, deployment orders, commendations, a letter signed by the Department of Defense confirming active status, and last, a signed photo. Standing next to the Secretary of Defense, gasps rippled through the room. Cheryl went pale. But Alyssa wasn't done. She was just getting warmed up. Just as Cheryl opened her mouth to protest, Alyssa tapped the remote. The projector behind her flickered to life. Slide 1. Cheryl's car double-parked, blocking a hydrant. Time-stamped. Geotagged. Slide 2. Video of Cheryl's speakers blasting Sweet Caroline at 10:58 p.m. Decibel levels logged. Neighbor complaints filed. Slide 3. Footage of her dog doing its business on our lawn. 6 days in a row. 0 cleanups. Laughter bubbled in the room, tight and uncomfortable. Alyssa turned to face the crowd. "I've documented everything. Every violation, every public lie, and while she was busy spinning conspiracy theories, she clicked one more time." Slide 4. A screenshot of Cheryl's HOA group post, titled "Military Plants Among Us Gasps This Time." Real ones. Alyssa looked Cheryl in the eye. No more veils, no more slander, just truth. Cheryl's face dropped, that clipboard shaking in her hands. You could hear a pin drop. Even Cheryl's dog, yapping from her purse like it owned the room, went dead quiet. The HOA chair, Mr. Donnelly, who hadn't said a damn word all night, finally stood. He adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and said, "We will now be reviewing Ms. Palmer's conduct." Cheryl tried to laugh it off. "This is all staged. You're all falling for a show." "Enough," Donnelly snapped. I swear, even I flinched. "This board has received multiple complaints, evidence of falsified reports, harassment, and repeated abuse of HOA privileges." He turned to Alyssa. "Colonel Grant, we apologize." Then back to Cheryl. "Effective immediately, your HOA privileges are suspended pending investigation." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was relief. I looked at Alyssa. She wasn't smiling. She didn't need to, because justice, it was already unfolding. You could see it happen. That moment, Cheryl's smile snapped like a dry twig under pressure. Her eyes darted wild. Her voice wavered, then cracked. "This isn't over. You think some files and fake respect make you queen of this block?" No one responded. That silence hurt more than any insult could. Then she did the unthinkable. She grabbed Alyssa's ID folder off the table and tried to rip it in half. The room gasped. Donnelly shouted Miss Palmer. "That is a federal document." 2 board members rushed forward. Cheryl backed away like a cornered animal, eyes glassy, muttering, "She's not one of us." She never was. She stormed out, heels clacking like gunshots against tile. No one followed. No one clapped. Just stillness. Alyssa calmly retrieved her folder untouched, then looked at me and said, "Now, she's finally exposed." Cheryl didn't show her face the next morning. No clipboard patrol, no HOA threats tucked under door handles, just a dark house blinds drawn tight like a bunker, but the neighborhood. It was different. For the first time in weeks, people waved again. Nods, small smiles, even a fresh pie on our porch from Mrs. Ang across the street, apple cinnamon still warm. Alyssa took it all in with that same quiet grace. She didn't gloat, didn't post a victory dance. She just said respect isn't loud, it's earned. That night, we got an official email from the HOA board. Cheryl Palmer was suspended indefinitely, pending legal review. Several neighbors had come forward with complaints. Turns out, we weren't her first targets, just her last. And as I watched Alyssa sip her tea on the porch sunset, catching the medal on her shelf, I realized this wasn't just a win, it was a reset. For a moment, it felt like we could breathe again. The air was lighter. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was calm. We started fixing the front garden. Neighbors dropped by. Kids played outside again. Even I started sleeping through the night. But peace never lasts long when someone like Cheryl's lurking. That Friday, I opened our mailbox. No fines, no threats, just a manila envelope, no return address. Inside, printed screenshots. Dozens. Old Facebook posts of Alyssa in uniform. A note paper-clipped to the top, Stolen Valor tip line submission in progress. Just because the HOA won't act, doesn't mean I won't. No name. But we knew. Alyssa stared at the note for a long second, then folded it calmly. "She wants attention," she said, "and she just confirmed she's not done." I swallowed hard. Neither were we. Alyssa didn't yell, didn't panic. She poured herself a cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out her phone. I watched her scroll tap, then lift it to her ear, calm, precise, like flipping a switch in her mind. "Colonel Alyssa Grant, authorization ID 9, Charlie Bravo 07, she said smoothly. "I'd like to report a civilian impersonating federal channels to harass a decorated officer." Pause. "Yes, I have all documentation. Screenshots included. Suspect has a pattern of targeting military families. I am requesting an immediate flag through the Stolen Valor Enforcement Bureau." She hung up, then looked at me like a weight had finally shifted. She wanted the military involved, Alyssa said. Now they are. Cheryl had crossed a line, not a social one, not an HOA rule, a federal one. And when you do that, there are consequences no clipboard can protect you from. 2 weeks later, a black SUV pulled into Cheryl's driveway. Federal plates, quiet men in suits, clipboard in hand. No noise, no drama, just calm authority. They left with a box of files, a copy of her HOA laptop, and one very pale woman who finally stopped talking. No arrest, no cameras, just consequences, delivered like clockwork. That evening, Alyssa and I sat on the porch, sun dipping low behind the rooftops. The street was still, no barking, no spotlight, just peace. "You think she'll come back?" I asked. Alyssa shook her head. "Doesn't matter, because power built on fear never lasts. And truth has no expiration date. We didn't win by yelling louder. We won by standing still, documenting every hit and striking with precision. Justice didn't kick down her door. It walked through the front, with receipts. Because real strength doesn't shout, it proves.